Hello and welcome to the 20th of November Backdrop CMS user group meeting. My name is Martin Price. I'm Yorkshire Pudding around the internet, and today we're looking at how to as a beginner, how to make pull requests towards the core Backdrop product, and some tips and tricks for beginners. So I'll say I'm Martin. I'm based in Northeast England. I'm a Backdrop developer, and we'll go to Luke next.
Hi, folks. Let me silence my phone here. I get a million spam calls on it. Hi, Luke McCormick here in the USA, California, near San Francisco, Martinez. I go by Cell Ear on the net. I'm a programmer, occasionally a architect, and these days largely a prompt engineer. And always supportive of and interested in Backdrop. So that's why I'm here.
I'll jump in. I'll just go ahead. Look, I'm Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim on the internet. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. It's a gray and overcast day. Yeah, and we're all, it's been about a week and a half since Backdrop Live, right? So coming down with that, and we're looking forward to reprising some of the topics from Backdrop Live during the user group. Who's next? Vicki, you want to introduce yourself? Just who you are, where you are.
Yes, Vicki Lace. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I am not a programmer. I am a user, but I do know how to install whatever modules are necessary and make changes if somebody can guide me.
Okay, thank you. Olaf, can you introduce yourself? And Herb, are you available after her, Olaf?
Yes, 1 minute.
Okay.
So I'm Olaf from Hamburg in Germany, a Drupal site architect, freelancer, and yeah, nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Herb Vandendoel in Ontario, Canada, core committer for Backdrop.
Thank you, Herb. I think that's everybody but Izzy. So Izzy, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And I think you could go right ahead into your topic then.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm Izzy. I'm from Vancouver, west coast of Canada, and I'm happy to be here. I tried this at Backdrop Live just over a week ago because I thought that people might be interested in kind of recapturing some of the neat things they learned when they were first starting to do something like pull requests. Backdrop is a lot like Drupal, and it allows people to build interesting and elaborate websites and web applications. People may find as they're doing this that they get quite fascinated by the things that they can do with Backdrop, and they start to get curious about, well, how does it do it all? And what will it do next? And that might get them interested in peeking under the hood, which is not too hard to do. I think you can see my screen. I've put it up there now. So this is Backdrop. And once you start to get curious about it, you may find yourself wandering off to GitHub. You might be on the forum and people mention issues. And if you go to the Backdrop issues, you can actually click on the Backdrop repository or the Backdrop issues. And when you go and look at the Backdrop repository, you'll see that the code is here, and you can fork it if you go to the issues, which is where you might start, and you can order them as the most recently updated, and you can go and look at them, and you may find that something kind of attracts your interest, like using the emojis in CK Editor, and this one has a pull request. So if we actually go to the pull request or to the issue, we'll see that there is a pull request here, and if we click on that, it will take a moment to get there, but it will show us that the code is now available here. But more than that, with Tugboat here, you can actually save the password, and the user will be admin, and you can click on this, and it will actually open up a working backdrop instance. It only takes a moment to enable it, but then you have a fully working version of backdrop with the change that has been proposed. So you may be able to use that to just see how it works. And for some people who are using backdrop and seeing a new feature or an improvement on an existing feature, they might find that by looking at it and playing around with it, that they have some comments about how well it's working or if it needs some further improvement. So that's kind of the first easy thing that people find they can do when they start looking at this. The other thing is that if you are actually been around a bit longer and you've been thinking about using Git, or you've even learned how to use Git, you might want to bring it into your local environment. And so again, you would start off at the backdrop code site itself. And when you get to that, which I think I was already there now, just refreshing it. When you get to that, you do have to have a few things. You have to have a GitHub account already set up. You have to either know a bit of Git or be ready to learn some Git, and you want to have a local environment. So if you click on the fork, it will allow you to fork it. Of course, you have to be logged in, which I'm not here. So once you do that, what it will do is it will actually create your own copy of the repository. And you can see on this one, mine was created a little while ago. It's actually 6 commits behind the current one, and you can synchronize it. If I'm logged in, you just click on this and it will synchronize it. So basically what you do here is now you can't work on the backdrop code directly because it has to be controlled. But you can work on your copy of it that you've just created, and then you can offer the changes back and they can be merged in. So here you can copy the actual link, and then you can go to your local environment and you can do a git clone, and you can paste in the link that you've got, and then you just press enter and it will create a directory, and that'll be it. I'm not going to do it because I've already got it here. If we just look, these are the files that you get. So you might be familiar with the core, backdrop core, the files directory, the layouts directory, the modules directories, the sites, and the themes. And what you'll notice here is that there's this extra file, the settings local.php. Now, with this repository, you want to create your own branches. You don't want to actually mess up what's in the 1x of backdrop. So when you make changes, you can create a diff of it. So by leaving the settings PHP file alone and copying into the settings local PHP file what you want, you can achieve a way of running Backdrop locally and working on changes. So what I've got is an Apache host file, and in it I've got the set handler so that I can switch the PHP versions without having to include that in the .htaccess, because I want to leave that untarnished. And the other, let me see if I guess I don't have that open just here. Just give me half a second here. So this is the settings local file, and the top part of this file is all what was just copied over from the original settings PHP file. At the very top, you would change your database things, credentials, and you may want to leave the rest of this here if you're still experimenting. And then at the bottom, you can add some configuration overrides. So basically, you can set the private paths or the temporary path. You can tell it to display errors that you might want to see, and make any other changes that you want to have available to you. And then once you've done that, you basically, hang on a second, I think I'm a little bit behind myself here. Let me just open a new private window, and let's see. It's just going to take a moment. So now here I've got my working Backdrop site, and it's working in the same it's working in the same directory as my fork that I've cloned locally. And if I want to, I can then create branches for each of the different issues and make changes on those. And then you can see how this is where the Backdrop 1X is last up to date, and these are the different issues that I might be working on that I want to wrap up or whatever. So that the main thing I wanted to show off here was the realization that the settings.local.php is the trick to being able to do whatever you want to without messing up the Git repo. And the other thing was using the Apache host as a way to change the PHP version without having to do that in the .htaccess file. So those are the two main things that I wanted to that I thought were cool once I had realized how I could set this up. And I don't know, does anyone have any questions, or maybe some of their own tips that they've come across?
I mean, I would say when thinking back to when I first started, when I first started, I wasn't using Git, and Git was something that came a bit later after I'd done a few patches, and I realized it would be a really good idea to get into. Git. So what I first did, I would fork it into my GitHub, my GitHub account, and I would be looking at it on the version of the site that I was doing it in, and if there was a bug, I would look at the code. So I think if I remember, my first change was something. It was a change to the template of a theme, and it it was a Friday night here in the UK, and I came across the chat and said, I think I've found a bug and worked out how to fix it. What do I do? And someone said, "Oh well, you can. Here's how you can do it." So I basically did the change. I did the changes on my local, and then copied them into the fork that I'd done in my GitHub account, and then created a pull request from there. So I think if you're going back to the very beginning, then that's probably the simplest. I would say that if you've identified maybe a one liner or a couple of lines change that needs to be done, and you've never used Git before, I wouldn't say that you have to use Git in order to be able to do it, because uh, uh, um, Vicky, who we've got with us today, with guidance, was able to create a pull request without having to do any command line Git. We just did it through the user interface of GitHub. So it is possible to just do a pull request in GitHub without doing anything locally, or any connection between your local machine. And bear in mind, some people, and I think at the time I was doing it, I might have been one of these. I was developing a site on my hosting, and so I didn't even have a local environment then. So you don't even have to have a local environment if you want to contribute. It's just about being able to and there are people who can help you guide you through what you need to do, but you can do it just with the GitHub user interface.
That's a really good reminder, Martin.
Sure. I'm going to share, oh no, looking for the chat. There it is. I'm going to share in chat a link to a blog post that Greg wrote. For those of you who haven't been around for a while, Greg hasn't been around the community much lately, but he's been one of the more prolific core contributors over the last decade. And he's often done sessions like this where he talked about when he first got involved, and like his first pull requests were just using GitHub, and he created this blog post called "Creating Pull Requests Against Core the Easy Noob Way," is how he titled his blog post. And he started out doing kind of simple UI pull requests, and just doing them in GitHub, and then gradually got more and more comfortable, and eventually, probably the next step for him would have been the kind of things that Izzy was talking about today. But what initially got him comfortable was doing this. Now there's a certain type of pull request that's more suitable for GitHub PR, and that's Greg was particularly interested in user interface. And there's a lot of user interface pull requests that are things like change the help text or add some help text. And you
Just
don't
going to
need,
share this for anyone who
yeah,
is anyone who is watching it on YouTube who won't see the chat link, but
yeah,
this is where you can find it. So backdropcms.org news. So if you go here and look at the blog, you'll be able to you should be able to find this. But yeah, this is the name of it. So
yeah,
Can it also be added to the YouTube?
sure.
Yeah.
Just got to remind me to do it, or I got to show some other people how to do that. Izzy, maybe we should give you access to the YouTube account so you can help with stuff like that. The but yeah, so and again, I would recommend part of um, Izzy, I would argue that you're like one step beyond the absolute beginner today. Like the absolute beginner is somebody who might like not be ready to and you did talk about writing pull requests, so uh, specifically that. But if we're talking about contribution in general, for me, what's really important is you showed how to access a PR sandbox. Then for me, that was the first thing that was like really important to me getting involved. Because when I realized that there were these test environments that I could help test and review UX user experience pull requests, that was a big deal. It was like somebody had, again, they've changed the help text or they've added an option to something, and somebody has to just sort of test that, make sure it works. But more importantly, these UX pull requests just need feedback. Is the wording correctly? Did we label the button correctly? And it's so much easier when you can like go into an actual working version of Backdrop. Go to the feature that's been modified, see it, and then give your feedback. And that's super valuable. There's a lot of pull requests that are just waiting for that kind of feedback to get implemented in core. And that doesn't involve setting up anything on your local environment at all. And then, so the next step is how do I make a pull request like that? And to me, you can do that just in the GitHub interface. I think I skipped over that step personally and went to creating them locally, partly because I already had local environments. I knew how to do that. But I think that those PR sandboxes is something that's really important for beginners to realize that there's a lot you can do just looking at pull requests and offering your feedback.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the starting point. That's one of the big strengths I found with Backdrop was not only the pull request having these automated systems, so you can actually view what's actually changed as you develop more interest in it. And I'm not sure why that's happening, but
yes, if it's a big one, it won't show it by default. So
right. Right.
if someone's just added or deleted a file, it often doesn't show it. But it's more useful if you've got a pull request that is how lines have changed.
Yes. So between that, where you can actually run it and see the pull request, and of course, there's always the ability to create your own demo Backdrop site anytime and do your own thing, creating a sandbox. That's another big plus of Backdrop.
Right. And that's super important because if you're testing a PR and they've changed the language, one of the things you want to do is look at what it looked like before the change and what it looked like after. And it's nice to see that on a clean environment. So what I used to do is I'd go to the demo site on backdropcms.org, create a demo site, look at how it worked before the PR. Then I would open up the PR sandbox, see how it looked afterwards, and then I could comment, yes, I think this is a good change.
Yeah. And I just found that, I mean, once you learn a little bit about Git and you can clone the Git to your own system, just the ability to sort of fire up the instance so you could actually experiment it with your own sandbox was very helpful for me. So I could see when I was working on a pull request, I could make some changes. I could look at it on the screen, see if I'm satisfied with it or not. So I agree it's a subsequent step, but it's really not that far away. And knowing about the settings local PHP file, because sometimes people say, well, where's the default settings PHP file? And Backdrop doesn't have one. But the reality is you can leave the settings PHP file alone and just copy anything you want to change into a local file.
That settings, that PHP is a really important step for people doing local development. It's really powerful. Although, so you're just working in, you just run sort of a local, you're not using DDEV or anything with that, I take.
Well, I'm using, there are a variety of different platforms you can use. What I'm using is Laragon, which can be run on cross-platform, but it runs well on Windows as well as a portable app. So you can, technically speaking, run it off a USB if you want to take it off on a holiday with you or something,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the other thing, one of the next steps is, I got your note about getting you that script. Greg, that we were talking about earlier, after graduating beyond the GitHub PR method, he got super involved in core development, did a lot of work, and eventually developed the script for spinning up new sites that would give him the option of applying a PR. That he would just run the script. It would ask him, do you want to apply a PR to your new backdrop version? And then he would just type in the number of the PR, and it would spin up and launch a backdrop site locally with a specific PR already applied that he could then work on. And again, this is another really powerful tool once you get to that step. I would not call that a beginner step, though. This is like an advanced intermediate or an intermediate step. But it's a big one. Like once you get to that level, you're knowing how to do that, like makes it much, much easier, because there's some PRs you can't test in the sandbox. And that as a beginner, it's important to know that that there's many you can, but every once in a while you kind of need to do stuff locally in order to really test a PR. And but that can feel intimidating, like to apply a PR locally. And the script is one of the tools that just made it so easy for me that it was like I felt, once I learned how to do that, like I felt like I could suddenly do a lot of things I couldn't do before that. At least I couldn't do easily. It was I knew how to apply PRs, but I always felt like that's going to be too much work. So I would avoid those kinds of pull requests. But once you can spin up a local site with a PR applied in 3 minutes, you no longer have that excuse. It's just too easy to help test some of those kinds of issues.
Yeah, but you don't even need the script to be able to do that, because if you've got a local environment set up, you can copy the changes off of the issue pull request as a diff file and put that.
But what I'm saying is that step intimidated me. You're right that it isn't that hard once you figure those things out. Like you learn how to apply a diff to an existing. And that isn't that hard if you know how to do it. But it was like every time I would face that situation, I would say, I know I can do this. I know that it's not that hard, but it's going to take me 15 minutes to figure out how to do it the not hard way, and I just wouldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah. I thought it would be worthwhile just showing a few things in the GitHub UI, just so when we talk about that, things are a bit more familiar. So I'm happy to share my screen for a bit and just show a PR that I've been working on.
Sure.
Just one
and
question
show.
in between.
Yeah.
Tim, the script you mentioned, is it for DDEV or?
My particular script, works with DDEV. I don't know that it's necessary. I think it has some DDEV custom steps in it, but I don't know. I think it would work with other platforms, and the concept would work. It is not DDEV specific. I think you could easily look at the script and figure out what the DDEV parts are and remove them if they don't apply to you. So I'm going to work on finding that because so I can get it to Izzy and share it with others while Martin talks.
Is it available somewhere or?
I'm about to look for it and share it.
Okay.
And make sure it's shared. I forget where it is, but it is available.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
So this is a GitHub feature request that I created, and very soon after I created a pull request. This is what a pull request looks like for core. So it's easier if you're doing it for contrib modules, because you can just type fixes and then hash and then the issue. Whereas in core, because they are in separate repositories, you have to copy the whole link to the issue. So, but this fixes is a magic word, and that means that automatically links it to the issue. But it also means if this pull request is merged, then it automatically closes the issue. So it's a clever little thing. But you can see up here, it shows the branch where this is coming from, and this is from my own fork of Backdrop, and I've created. You can see here I've created a branch particularly for this issue, and this was a trick that I learnt early on, because I'd try when I first started, I would just fork it and create an issue. Create a pull request straight from the main branch, which works fine if you've only ever do one at a time. But if you want to try and do another one, you run into the thing where you suddenly get things mixed up, and it gets a bit complicated. So that's why I try and do a separate branch for every pull request. But what you can actually do when you're in GitHub, so this is in Chrome, and I'm not sure if it's the same in every thing, but you can just press the dot. But I think you might also be able to. You can also create what's called a code space. But if you just press the dot on here, it will open up a browser version of VS Code. And if we can look at exactly where, so if we look here, we can see where I changed it. So it was in the system install file, which is in core modules system install. And what you see on here is the green lines are where I've put a completely new line in. The red lines is where I've removed a line, but it could simply be that I've what it sometimes will show this. is if you've changed it. So I haven't actually deleted all of these, but I have changed the order and the structure of where everything is. So I've created new lines here. So anyway, if we go to core modules, system install, I'll just double check the lines where I was doing this. So it's round about 480. So you can see here, this is where I've created the where I've created the list of the different modules. So that's where I've done it. So you do get this ability to look at it in the within GitHub. There are advantages to doing it on your local. So, for example, in here, because this is a .install file rather than a PHP file, it doesn't have the syntax highlighting by default, which can be a little bit confusing because it really does help having that. But if you're just talking about a couple of lines, then being able to make a change in here. So if I made a change in here, it would instantly become available. And because I've already created a pull request, I can, if I made a change here, it would, I could add it as a commit, and it would update that pull request. We'll discard what I've done there, but just to say that's how you can quite if for example you've made a change on your to core on your local and think, yes, this works to fix this issue, but I don't know how to do I don't know how to use Git, then this is how you can you can edit it online in GitHub without having to have it locally. So that's just another way that's quite beginner friendly.
And that's just by pressing the dot key, the period.
Yeah, certainly works in for me in Chrome. I don't know if there's certain if other browsers it doesn't work. I'm not sure. But sometimes if I discover a bug on a site that I'm developing and I just make a fix to I look into it and I work out how to fix it just on that site that I'm developing, and it's just like a 1 or 2 line fix, then sometimes I will do that. I will just do it in the I'll create a branch for it on my fork. I'll jump into the web editor, copy the change into there, and then submit it without creating a local branch, just because if I'm busy working on a site and I just think I just want to get this in quickly, it and it's just like a 1 or 2 line change, then it's a way to get it done quite easily.
So I shared a link to the gist of some scripts from Greg in Zulip. They may or may not be helpful directly. I'm trying to share my own script, and I'm realizing that I actually have kind of a couple series of scripts that call each other. And so I'm trying to sort of package it in a way that it's useful. I mean, some of them are really simple. There's one, the one beefy script that does most of the work, and so I'll start with sharing that one. Anybody else?
Do you want to toss it in the Zoom chat? The link to the scripts?
I prefer to put them in Zulip because then they'll be there after the meeting. So,
okay, I'll go over there then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, well, if anyone else has anything they want to add, or we can call it a wrap.
We can end the recording, and then I can still go ahead and try and actually maybe show you my scripts. But I don't want to do that in the recording right now because they're not prepared and it'll be chaotic. So we could talk about that another time. So let's go ahead and stop the recording.